Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, it's going to be a bit of a goofy one. Depending on when this video comes out, it's either the eve of the US election or the day of the US election. And we're not going to be diving too much into that. I did put a poll out earlier asking whether people are following this or not. I think it was like 79% of you guys said that you are keeping an eye on this. And from what I've seen, the numbers are pretty much neck and neck. Trump has a little bit more with the men. Kamala has it with the women, and Kamala is polling slightly better depending on the issue, as you can see from this NBC broadcast.
What does this poll show us?
Yeah, I mean, fittingly, isn't it? At the very end, we find a tie nationally. 49% for Harris, 49% for Trump. Really, that's what we found when we last polled this a couple weeks ago. We go under the hood here and look at some of the other numbers there. There's this question of enthusiasm. A couple notable things here. This is the share of voters who are calling themselves very interested in this election. And you can see it stands at 77%, which is down from 2020 when we had that historic turnout. Then we come to the issues that voters say that matter most to them and how they rate the candidates. And I think, again, notably, Harris continues to do best on abortion, 20-point advantage there. Trump continues to do best on inflation, cost of living, an advantage there of 12. Then there's this question, too. We just hear all the stories, all the images from early voting. And look at this. 2/3 of voters in our poll say they've either voted already or they're going to vote early. On Election Day, 1/3 of the electorate actually saying they will turn out and vote then. And you can see, we saw a bit of this in 2020, remember. The early vote here, more Harris-friendly in our poll. That Election Day vote, that's the big wild card. You don't know what that turnout will look like on Election Day, but if Trump has an advantage there, see if it's enough to overcome what he could potentially lose in the early side. And then the gender gap. Again, we've talked about this throughout the campaign. We've talked about this for decades. Trump up 18 with men, Harris 16 with women. That is a 34-point gender gap by about 10 points. If this happens, this would be the biggest gender gap ever recorded.
So all that being said, it looks like tomorrow the 5th is going to be quite a day. But as I mentioned at the start, this video is going to be a little bit goofy because if you remember about almost 2 weeks ago, Trump was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And we're not going to be taking a look at the podcast. It's like 3 hours long. Hey everybody, post-editing Mike here. So as I was doing the stuff I do with the video, it turns out Joe Rogan has officially come out and endorsed Donald Trump. Today he had uploaded his podcast with Elon Musk, and then he made this tweet saying, if it wasn't for him, the great powerful Elon Musk, if it wasn't for him, we'd be effed. He makes what I think is the most compelling case for Trump you'll hear, and I agree with him every step of the way. For the record, yes, that's an endorsement of Trump. Enjoy the podcast. And then he posts his 2.5, almost 3 hour podcast. Now, Trump got this live breaking news and while he was doing one of his rallies, and it seemed like the crowd was very pleased about this.
Whoa. Oh, wow. I have some more big news, Megan. I'm just getting this right now. So somebody that's very, very respected asked me to do his show 2 weeks ago, and I said, why not? And to me, it's very big because he's the biggest there is, I guess, in that world by far. Somebody said the biggest beyond anybody in a long time. And his name is Joe Rogan, and he's never done this before. And it just came over the wires that Joe Rogan just endorsed me. Is that good? Thank you, Joe. That's so nice.
So with all that being said, let's see if the numbers actually do change drastically or not with this endorsement. But without further ado, let's jump back into the main video. However, the subsequent days following, he had a podcast with some of his buddies. And when I caught a portion of that podcast, I had sworn that they were talking about Chrystia Freeland. Turns out they were talking about Kamala Harris. But just take a listen to this and tell me that you don't also see the similarities.
Damn. But at the end of it, he's, I don't know him other than the 3 hours that I talked to him when he was trying to be at his best.
And
right?
Kamala Harris has not said yes yet.
She's not said no either. People keep saying she said no. I
team's
said
smart.
I would have a conversation with her like a human being. That's all I want to do. That's literally all I want to do.
But that's trouble
I want to
for
know
her.
what is it like to be. I don't even give a f about all the stuff she's talked about policies and all these different things. We know her positions.
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
Just be real.
Who are you?
The crazy thing
That's right.
with
That's
Kamala
that's
is
the most. She would be well served to step into the lion's den.
no, she's
and
not though,
take it
because she
on
can't do it.
and
I
be
would
honest.
be willing to talk about anything other than politics. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I don't give a
You wanna
fuck.
know who she is.
Like, if there were some certain things they didn't want to talk about, like, fine, I don't care. Let's talk. I want to know who you are.
Yes.
I can find out who you
So do-
are if
so
we
do
can
the rest
talk
of
about
us.
sports.
So do
It's
the rest of
crazy
us.
how she does interview after interview and they're just like disasters, and you would think that she would
they're
study
interviews.
and
This
just
is
like
the thing. They're
you know
interviews.
what I mean?
It's a up way to talk that no one's used to doing. Here's the way it is. Here's a question. Give me an answer. And you're like, well, I think that it's not a conversation. It's not a conversation. So it's a weird. So you're uncomfortable with your words and you're trying to get it out right, and you realize millions of people hate you and don't think you should be in that position in the first place.
When she begins to answer a question with, "I'm glad you asked that. Thank you for that."
Oh, you mean like this?
Thank you for the question.
It's a good question to ask because,
Well, thank you very much for the question because
so I am actually really glad that you put those two questions together. Thank you for the question, Steve.
so again, thank you for the question.
I think that is a good and important question. And thanks for the question, Kevin. Again, I just respect, again, like, thank you for your question. Really important question, really important issue. And I think the point is that I'm glad you asked that question. And
Yeah, thank you for the question.
truly thank you for the question, because our government will keep on working.
I mean, yeah, one could say that they do notice this, but is there anything else?
I'm like, oh my god,
you know it's coming. It's good. It's good.
It's coming.
Well, she steers it back
When she
to the same
thanks
talking
you for
points.
asking a question
brilliant
about
question.
the 20 million illegals coming through the border unvetted. I'm glad you asked that.
No. She
What would you
steers
do
it back to
different?
the same talking points. She steers it back to, I'm a middle class. I come from a middle class family. I like small businesses. It always back to the same
And groceries,
five things.
they go, what about inflation? And then she goes, it's everything. You're right. I'm glad you asked that question. Groceries?
I know.
Gas?
But she-
everything. Families are struggling.
Yeah.
Families, and then
But no plan. There's no. I need to hear what you want to
no
do
policy.
about it.
You would think her handlers would go, this is the plan. When they ask you about inflation, say we're going to do this and
I'm
we're going to do
telling
that.
you,
They don't tell her shit.
the way they're doing it is very unnatural. And if you take a person that clams up when they have to talk publicly and you put them in unnatural environments, you incite all kinds of anxiety inside of them. It's a terrible way to communicate.
I mean, we're talking about the woman here that's constantly twitching whenever she's not at the podium or talking. She just doesn't know how to sit still. It doesn't matter if it was 9 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 month ago. She's been twitching ever since she got into power. You could check it out from 9 years ago when Trudeau was talking about the F-35s.
There's no contract right now for the F-35s. A Liberal government actually engaged in the international development process around the F-35s, and also got a certain amount of money, a certain amount of jobs here in Canada in the development process for the F-35s. That happened well over a decade ago. But part of that agreement was that there was no obligation for Canada to actually purchase F-35s. We were part of the international community contributing to the development of it and got jobs to it, but we were never obliged to actually purchase the F-35. And what we're seeing now, with costs skyrocketing for a plane that has been plagued with troubles after troubles during development, is that it no longer makes sense, if it ever did, to have a first flight capacity, fifth generation fighter. There are many other fighters at much lower price points that we can use that have been proven, that we will be able to actually deliver in a timely way to replace our CS-18 and make sure that our military has the planes it needs and also the ships we need to continue to be the kind of country that we expect us to be.
One could say maybe she was bored, but that's not very natural. And she does that at all the press conferences too. When she's standing in the background, she's just constantly twitching.
En janvier de cette année, vous avez annoncé un investissement de 30 millions de dollars pour un programme de nutrition.
Ouais.
Qu'est-ce que ces 17 millions du gouvernement fédéral vont changer?
Ça ajoute à ce qu'on était déjà en train de faire ici dans le Manitoba. And we have a priority here at the provincial level that we want this to be baked into the educational landscape here in Manitoba. You know, this is our 1-year anniversary as a provincial government. Creator willing, there'll be many more years to come with our team in government.
If you ask her a very straightforward question like this one from, I believe, 9-10 months ago, when they first started talking about the polls and how the Liberals were so far down in the polls, she gave this word salad answer as she always does, but this one's about her waking up and the woman beside her is clearly alive, waking up, and how they need to do more. Just like he was saying, that they're talking about groceries and how people are struggling, but they don't talk about policies, they don't talk about what they're doing, they just say they're listening, they're doing better.
Today, a recent poll by Abacus Data suggests that the Liberal government is falling further out of favor with Canadians. If there was an election held today, the poll suggests that 41% of Canadians would vote for the Conservative government, 24% for your government. Why do you believe that your government continues to fall further out of favor with Canadians, and what work do you believe needs to be done?
Really, thank you for that question, because I wake up every single morning. I know Marcy wakes up every single morning also, thinking about the challenges Canadians face right now and thinking about how we can work harder and more effectively to meet those challenges. That's what we're doing. From my perspective, the single biggest challenge Canadians are facing right now is housing. And that's why we're here making a housing announcement, highlighting some of the really important work that is happening, pointing to a model approach to building not only affordable housing, but real communities, talking about the First Home Savings Account, highlighting that so that Canadians know that's a really effective way to save for that first home of your own. I recognize that these are really hard times for a lot of Canadians, and our government's response is going to be to get up every day, to focus on the challenge at hand, and to work as hard as we can to answer it.
And on that note, I think I will end the video here before the government decides to ban me for cyberbullying Chrystia Freeland. As always, these are my opinions, but I do love to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comment section below if you also see the similarities that they were talking about. Maybe it's just a politician thing. Maybe it's a Freeland and Kamala thing. Who knows? And also, let me know what you guys are looking forward to in this election, who you're rooting for. Is it Trump? Is it Harris? And if you want to get into it, let me know why or why not you're voting or rooting for that candidate, I should say. As always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.